Now I've got a smile on my face because Scarb's here, Craig Scarborough, doesn't know what's happening next. Let's have a look at this 3D animation again of the Ferrari. It all looks completely normal, Scarbs, as we were just discussing.
Yep.
Monkey seat, the whole thing going on. But let's pause it just about here, I think. What do you think happens next? If this was a very, very special Ferrari.
If it was a very special Ferrari, I don't know. I mean, you go to another classic colour scheme or aluminium wings like the old days.
We've taken a bit of a liberty here. We're actually going back 40 years, virtually to the month, so maybe even the week, actually. And this is what it would have looked like if it was allowed today. This is what Ferrari did 40 years ago.
Oh.
Absolutely brilliant. Now, I was working at Autocar at the time when this car was built. And it ran at the Fiat test track, at Nardi test track, Niki Lauda driving, and then at Fiorano with Niki and Carlos Reutemann driving. And it was Ferrari's six-wheeler of the time. Yeah. And you'll remember that obviously Tyrrell had the six-wheeler, which was four wheels at the front, which was great, and it won a Grand Prix. Everybody wondered why Derek Gardner had done it, really, because the whole point was reduced frontal area, and he still had the big, massive rear Goodyears. So then Williams and March came out with their version, which was basically four-wheel drive at the rear with four front wheels. But it was quite a complicated thing in terms of what you had to do with the transaxle. But Ferrari actually used their brains, I think, because very simply, without having to worry about a new gearbox or anything else, they just were able to run ran four front wheels at the rear. They could run a bigger footprint at the rear because they ran two 9.5-inch rims, and there was a limit of a 10-inch rim at that time. So they actually had the rim was legal. They just had four of them instead of two. Yeah. And of course they had a much reduced frontal area. What do you think about this when you see this now? I mean, because you're modern tech.
I was a bit sceptical when I first ever saw this. This seems like a typical Ferrari sort of Machiavellian, right, six wheels, we don't want that. We're going to go and run something that's going to get the whole idea banned. And that's where I think this was probably aimed. But there are engineering reasons for doing this. You would wonder how that would have dealt with Bottas at the start of the Russian Grand Prix.
Mate, this is a hill climb. I mean, we saw that in the hill climbing. It's a hill climb special, isn't it? Imagine the traction of that thing. Actually, I think it was the Williams top speed that scared the FIA into banning the whole thing, because it was incredibly quick at Ricard in a straight line. It was approaching 200 miles an hour going into the scene. And the Ferrari kind of imploded of its own accord, because, and I'd be interested to get your input here, because there was a big discussion at the time about wheel movement and camber change and so forth with these four rims on the back axle line. And Ferrari were very confident because previous to this they'd run a de Dion rear axle on the car, and perhaps you can just explain to the viewers what that meant. But that the plan always was to run the de Dion with the four wheels at the back on the six-wheeler. But then they had a couple of drive shaft failures at critical points, particularly going over the bridge at Fiorano, and a couple of near misses. And at that point, I think it all coincided and the thing was banned, and they kind of breathed a sigh of relief. But what would you think about a de Dion rear end on that?
Well, that would work. So a de Dion rear axle, as you know, we'll explain, is effectively a solid rear axle. So the wheels are on not the same shaft, but they're on the same mounting, so they're always in the same orientation. What happens with the tyre gets its grip from what they call camber thrust, which is on that inside edge of the tyre, the bits that we saw blistering during Russia. And when you've got double wheels, that outer wheel potentially could be doing absolutely nothing, because it's sort of, as it cambers up round corners, that tyre gets raised off the ground. But if you know that tyre will always be completely in line with the others, you get that double effect of both the tyres. So the concept worked. Whether that gave them the traction and the grip that they wanted, because obviously you then have a lack of independence from the left and the right suspensions, which is obviously why all modern road cars and racing cars have independent rear suspension rather than de Dion or live axle rear ends. So there's benefits and compromises, and again, back in those days, any way you could work it out is to actually go out and test these things. But the fact that you had failures showed just how much grip potentially this could get and how much load it could put through the chassis.
Well, yeah, and I remember talking to Carlos Reutemann after one of these failures, and he was shocked, really. He said it was a big moment, and he was pretty frightened.